August 8, 1944, near Saint-Aignan-de-Cramesnil, south of Caen in Normandy. The morning air was thick with dust and cordite, the hedgerows standing like green walls scarred by fire. Inside Tiger 007, Hauptsturmführer Michael Wittmann rested his gloved hands on the cupola rim, the leather creaking softly as he raised his Zeiss binoculars. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. It was something far colder than that. Realization. Since dawn, his company of 4 Tiger tanks had been fighting almost continuously. Sherman after Sherman had burned across the fields along the Caen-Falaise road. 27 wrecks now smoldered where American crews had died trying to advance. Each Tiger had destroyed at least 6 enemy tanks. By every rule Wittmann had learned at the Panzertruppenschule, they were winning brilliantly. The exchange ratio was magnificent. Nearly 7 Shermans destroyed for every Tiger committed. But through his binoculars, the horizon told a different story. Wittmann counted again, slowly, as if hoping the numbers might change. 48 Shermans advancing from 3 directions. Fresh tanks. Fresh crews. Ammunition racks full. Behind them, rising dust clouds hinted at dozens more still coming. His 4 Tigers had perhaps a dozen armor-piercing rounds left between them. Fuel was nearly gone. No reserves were coming. No miracle was waiting. In that moment, Wittmann understood something no amount of courage or skill could change. This was no longer a battle of tanks. It was a battle of arithmetic. And arithmetic was merciless. Within minutes, Tiger 007 would be hit, exploding in a violent flash that killed Wittmann and his crew instantly. Whether the fatal shot came from a Sherman Firefly of the Northamptonshire Yeomanry or from Canadian armor would be debated for decades. What mattered was Wittmann's final radio transmission, logged at 12:47 hours. A message stripped of bravado, stripped of ideology. Ammunition exhausted. Enemy unlimited. The legend of German tank superiority did not die with Wittmann. It had been born years earlier, high in the Bavarian Alps, at Hitler's mountain retreat at Berghof on May 26, 1941. That day, Ferdinand Porsche and engineers from Henschel presented competing prototypes for what would become the Tiger tank. Hitler stood transfixed before the massive machine. The thick armor. The long 88mm gun, already feared as an anti-aircraft and anti-tank weapon. No Allied tank could penetrate it frontally. Hitler declared it immediately. This tank would be worth a battalion of ordinary tanks. 1 Tiger would destroy a dozen enemy vehicles. The Führer order that followed set Germany on a path it could never escape. Quality would triumph over quantity. Each Tiger would be a masterpiece, handcrafted by skilled workers, invincible on the battlefield. American tanks, Hitler assured his generals, would never match German engineering. Joseph Goebbels sneered at them as nothing more than Detroit tin cans on tracks. The first Tiger rolled off the production line at Henschel on August 4, 1942. It had taken 300,000 man-hours to build. 26,000 individual parts were assembled by hand. Skilled welders spent days fitting armor plates. The interleaved road wheels alone required precision that only experienced craftsmen could achieve. Oberst Wolfgang Thomel watched the trials and wrote confidently that if Germany could build 100 Tigers per month, the war would be won. Germany would never achieve that goal. At its absolute peak, in April 1944, Tiger production reached just over 100 tanks in a month. By then, American factories were producing nearly 2,000 Shermans every 30 days. The American story began not with a tank design, but with a phone call. On May 28, 1940, William Knudsen, former president of General Motors, received a call from President Franklin Roosevelt. The president told him bluntly that America needed 50,000 planes and 50,000 tanks. Knudsen's reply would shape the entire war. America could not build the best tanks, he said, but it could build the most. And it could build them so simply that any kid from Iowa could fix one with a wrench and a screwdriver. That philosophy gave birth to the Sherman. At Aberdeen Proving Ground in August 1940, the Army presented design requirements that horrified traditional engineers. Parts had to be interchangeable. Engines had to tolerate multiple fuel types. Armor had to be weldable, not painstakingly fitted. Tracks had to be replaceable in the field. The turret ring had to be large enough for future upgrades. General Gladion Barnes made it clear. He did not want perfection. He wanted a tank good enough to build by the thousands. In Germany, Tigers were built like works of art. At Henschel, 9,000 skilled workers labored in conditions resembling a medieval guild scaled up to industrial size. Components were signed by craftsmen. Pride ran deep. One worker later said they spent 3 days just assembling the final drive, measuring every gear by micrometer. It was not mass production. It was craftsmanship. In Detroit, it was something else entirely. The Detroit tank arsenal covered more than 1 million square feet. Former auto workers, housewives, and teenagers filled the lines. Rosie the Riveter welded Sherman hulls after just days of training. Each worker performed a single task, over and over. A tank rolled off the line every few hours. From raw steel to finished vehicle took just 48 hours. By December 1942, the numbers were already catastrophic for Germany. One American factory alone produced nearly 900 Shermans a month. Across the United States and Canada, more than 3,000 Shermans rolled out monthly. German Tiger production in the same period amounted to just a few dozen tanks. When Heinz Guderian saw the intelligence reports, he wrote in his diary that if the numbers were even half true, the war was already lost. The disparity multiplied itself. With thousands of Shermans available, American crews trained on real tanks. At Fort Knox, crews drove until engines failed, repaired them, and drove again. They fired thousands of rounds. They learned every sound and vibration. German Tiger crews, by contrast, trained mostly on diagrams and wooden mock-ups. Many went into combat having driven a Tiger for only a few days. When the Allies landed in Normandy, the mathematics became unavoidable. The Americans and British arrived with thousands of tanks and thousands more waiting in England. Germany had barely 100 Tigers in the entire region. When a Sherman was destroyed, another arrived within days. When a Tiger was lost, replacement might take months, if it came at all. Wittmann's famous ambush at Villers-Bocage demonstrated German tactical brilliance, but it also exposed the fatal flaw. British losses were replaced within 72 hours. Wittmann's own company, having lost Tigers in the aftermath, waited weeks for replacements that never truly came. Fuel deepened the crisis. Shermans ran on almost any gasoline. Tigers required scarce high-octane fuel Germany could barely produce. A Tiger burned more than 5 times the fuel of a Sherman. Entire German offensives stalled not from enemy fire, but empty tanks. German commanders watched endless columns of American vehicles roll past, unable to engage because they dared not waste fuel they could never replace. Maintenance told the same story. Shermans were designed like farm tractors. Parts were accessible. Engines could be swapped in hours. Tigers were mechanical marvels, but every marvel was a liability. A damaged inner road wheel could immobilize a Tiger for half a day. Transmission failures required cranes and specialized tools. Many Tigers were cannibalized just to keep one running. By 1944, Germany faced an even crueler equation. Each Tiger crew required months of training. When a Tiger was destroyed, Germany lost not just a tank, but years of experience. When Wittmann died, Germany lost 60 man-months of irreplaceable training in a single explosion. The Americans, meanwhile, trained thousands of crews every month. If a crewman was killed or wounded, another stepped in, trained on the same vehicle, using the same procedures. On the Eastern Front, the Soviet Union demonstrated the same arithmetic with brutal clarity. T-34s were crude compared to Tigers, but they appeared in endless waves. Germans recorded destroying dozens one day, only to face more the next morning. Quantity, Stalin's generals understood, had a quality all its own. By the time of the Battle of the Bulge, Germany's last gamble, the outcome was already written. King Tigers destroyed Shermans at long range, but fuel shortages immobilized them. American losses were replaced within days. German losses were permanent. When German crews abandoned their own Tigers and began using captured Shermans because they were easier to maintain, the irony was complete. When the war ended, the numbers told the final story. Germany built fewer than 2,000 Tigers of all types. America built over 49,000 Shermans, with thousands more from Allied factories. Only a handful of Tigers remained operational. Tens of thousands of Shermans still ran. At post-war reunions, veterans from both sides spoke with surprising agreement. German aces admitted they were fighting mathematics, not men. American tankers admitted they never wanted to face a Tiger alone, but they never had to. They fought with numbers, supply lines, and replacements waiting just behind them. The Tiger was a masterpiece. The Sherman was a compromise. But wars are not won by masterpieces. They are won by systems. By factories that never stop. By supply chains that never break. By arithmetic that never lies. Germany built the best tank of the war. America built the most. And in modern, industrial war, most beats best every single time.